Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I am Adrian Ford, and we are here for another poetry discussion. This poetry, of course, coming to us from Charles Bukowski in The Pleasures of the Damned. This poem itself happening on page 426 through 428, and it is called My Big Night on the Town, which reads as such. Sitting on a second-floor porch at 1:30 a.m. while looking out over the city, it could be worse. We needn't accomplish great things. We only need to accomplish little things that make us feel better or not so bad. Of course, sometimes the fates will not allow us to do this. Then, we must outwit the fates. We must be patient with the gods. They like to have fun. They like to play with us. They like to test us. They like to tell us that we are weak and stupid, that we are finished. The gods need to be amused. We are their toys. As I sit on the porch, a bird begins to serenade me from a tree nearby in the dark. It is a mockingbird. I am in love with mockingbirds. I make bird sounds. He waits. Then he makes them back. He is so good that I laugh. We are all so easily pleased, all of us living things. Now a slight drizzle begins to fall. A little chill drops on my hot skin. I am half asleep. I sit in a folding chair with my feet up on the railing as the mockingbird begins to repeat every bird song he has heard that day. This is what we old guys do for amusement on Saturday nights. We laugh at the gods, we settle old scores with them, we rejuvenate as the lights of the city blink below, as the dark tree holding the mockingbird watches over us, and as the world, from here, looks as good as it ever will. This is a nice sort of poem, very quaint, very quiet, very relaxed, and Bukowski writes a lot of lonely reflection poems. Often, these poems have a little helper contained within them, a little helper for his reflections, a bird, a cat, Mozart, something there to trigger a deeper insight. Here, we have a mockingbird. But let's do some backtracking through this poem. I'd like to start with this stanza here. I am half asleep. I sit in a folding chair with my feet up on the railing as the mockingbird begins to repeat every bird song he has heard that day. The bird is repeating every song that he has heard that day. That is where we find our speaker at the beginning of this poem. After all, this poem is titled My Big Night on the Town, but we're shown a very little night, and we are shown a broken man. So is this broken speaker someone who is coming from his or her big night on the town? Or I guess it is a him, because it says we old guys. This speaker is coming from their big night on the town, and it was a failure. And he sits here in contemplation. Much like that bird is singing every song that he heard that day, so too is our speaker. But there's a little more there. Slightly above that is when this exchange begins. I make bird sounds. He waits. Then he makes them back. But who is repeating who? Who is mocking who? Because the stanza just before that, as I sit on the porch, a bird begins to serenade me from the nearby tree in the dark. It is a mockingbird. I am in love with mockingbirds. So if the mockingbird sang first, is not our speaker mocking the bird? So it is not simply by definitions that we find ourselves where we find ourselves. And what is mocking? If our speaker is mocking the bird, or the bird is mocking the speaker, is mocking not a form of amusement, a form of toying around? The stanza prior to that, the gods need to be amused, and we are their toys. So who is lording over who? The mockingbird over the speaker, or the speaker over the mockingbird? Literally, the mockingbird is over our speaker. Our speaker seems to be of the impression that he is of greater import or status than the mockingbird, much like the gods would be over him. So is this relationship more of a dialectic than that? Is this relationship more of a conversation than that? After all, if we are to give in once in a while to the wills of the gods, that is to suggest that we have some say over them as well. So these relationships are not quite as cut and dry and hierarchical as perhaps they are painted to be. We must be patient with the gods. They like to have fun. They like to play with us. They like to test us. They like to tell us that we are weak and stupid and that we are finished. All of these things, they like to tell us. They like to play with us. They like to test us. Suggest that we have say in that. And if the speaker's relationship with the gods is a dialectic one, and the speaker's relationship with the bird is a dialectic as well, this is what we old guys do for amusement on Saturday nights. We laugh at the gods. We settle old scores with them. So regardless if our speaker is lording over the bird, or if the bird is the god lording over our speaker, to a great extent, by the time our poem comes to an end, that hierarchy has been stripped away, and we are left with this. After all of this conversation, this is what we old guys do for amusement on Saturday nights. We laugh at the gods. We settle old scores with them. We rejuvenate as the lights of the city blink below, as the dark tree holding the mockingbird watches over us, and as the world from here looks as good as it ever will. This poem accomplishes no great thing. It is a little thing. It is a thing that makes us feel better or not so bad. And I think that's something for which Bukowski does not often enough get credit. Those small victories in life that are communicated through Bukowski poems, which transcend because the great victories are so few and so far between, if we get there at all. That's all I've got for this discussion. If you hit the like button, it really helps us out here on the channel. Hit subscribe if you have somehow found your way to this video and you are not subscribed, but you enjoy poetry or discussions of poetry or discussions of literature in general. And if you would like to help us make more content, there is, as always, a link to our Patreon to be found in the description below. And I hope to see you sometime soon for another poetry discussion.